Vitamin C is a pretty essential nutrient, but it is especially essential right now during the flu and also coronavirus season. Because vitamin C is great for immune boosting, but it also has amazing benefits. Vitamin C has been shown to reduce fatigue and boost energy. Vitamin C has been shown to combat weight gain. It is incredible for heart health. It helps regulate your stress hormone cortisol. It also increases collagen production, which is great for wrinkles and sagging skin. And Paleo Valley makes an incredible essential C complex that has been third-party lab tested as the most powerful 100% natural vitamin C product on the planet. Most other vitamin C supplements are derived from GMO corn, and they only contain one fraction of the vitamin, whereas Paleo Valley's Essential C Complex contains the entire spectrum with absolutely no synthetic vitamin C, just organic superfoods. So go to paleovalley.com and use code KICKASSLIFE for 15% off.
Hey guys, I want to tell you about one of my favorite new companies, and that is Rep Provisions. So I met these guys at Paleo Effects last year where they were just blowing everyone away with their beef sticks and pecan nut butter combo packs that are outrageously delicious. But as I talked to them, I was even more blown away because I found out what they were about. They are a regenerative agriculture company committed to the future of the planet by the proper management of cattle. So they are regenerating America's grasslands with the management of their cattle. Look into it. It's amazing. They have everything from, of course, high quality grass-fed, grass-finished beef to Mongolisa pork, which is like the Wagyu of pork, to bone broth popsicles, pecan nut butters, like I said, and so many amazing things. Go support them and support the future of our planet. And they're giving you 15% off for being a Kick-Ass Life podcast listener. So use coupon code KICKASSLIFE and get 15% off at repprovisions.com.
Hey everyone, we're going to take a minute here at the top of the show to chat with you about some of our sponsors who are offering incredible discounts for you and your family. We also only align ourselves with companies that we know are providing safe and healthy products, and also products that we actually consume on a regular, if not sometimes daily basis. And one of those companies is Primal Kitchen. Primal Kitchen products are incredible because they are dairy-free, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free with no refined sugar. And they are delicious. So visit primalkitchen.com to check out the vast array of products available and use code KICKASSLIFE for 10% off.
Hey guys, today we're talking about inflammatory thoughts. Okay, because this really, and I know Elle can speak on this one, being an expert in hypothyroidism. I remember when I interviewed Dr. Gary Forsman, who consulted on your book and is amazing. I remember him saying, he's like, oh, hypothyroidism is emotional. And I was like, wow, just bold right out there, and I've seen that so much, especially I'd say like hypothyroidism, adrenal issues, anything that's like inflammatory.
Hand in hand.
Yeah, there's always a lot of emotional pain and struggle and suffering that hasn't been processed yet. PCOS, endometriosis. I see this all the time. Any sort of inflammatory stuff, especially when there's gut issues related to it, I see this connection where they have a bunch of emotional trauma that they have not yet processed. So that's what we want to talk about today, is these inflammatory thoughts that literally biochemically inflame your body and cause health issues. Because what happens when we are living in a fear state or a trauma state that hasn't been processed, the body is like, well, we better release adrenaline and cortisol so that they can run or fight. And that's chronically getting released into our body, which can then inflame the body, cause you to become insulin resistant, cause you to have all these gut issues, cause all these diseases, because inflammation is the root of all disease. So what we want to get to today is, what are these emotions and how can we identify them? And I want to push into a teaching from Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he teaches that we can become addicted to certain emotions. Okay. And I love this. When I first heard him share this, it was like mic drop, mind blown for myself, because he's like, we have these certain emotions. And what he says is they can become addictive because your body becomes conditioned to memorizing those emotions associated with your core beliefs. So a lot of these are rooted in childhood. And yes, you may have had a traumatic relationship 5 years ago or whatever it is, but the core problem started probably before you were 7 years old, that led you to be okay with being in that kind of relationship. And so what I want to start with is, what emotions did you feel a lot as a kid? Did you feel rejected? Did you feel abandoned, isolated, sad, victimized, judged, ashamed, guilty? Were your parents, guilt trippers and you led into that emotion and then that's leading into all your other relationships now, So that's where I want to open up. Elle, your thoughts to
Yeah,
start?
so I love this because, well, Candace Pert, who is from the National Institute of Health, and she's a researcher, she's a brain researcher. She really is the one who's been, her research has proven that the mind is not just in the head, right? It shares information via signal molecules throughout the body,
Yeah.
right? That can sort of, I guess you could say, generates molecules of emotion. And so when Joe Dispenza talks about this, he talks about, okay, so let's say you had an event that happened 8 months ago. You're still stewing about it. You're still stewing about it. You may not be addicted to it yet. Maybe that's just at that point, you're kind of like a temperament, as he says. But then if it continues on, right, it's become a personality. I've witnessed this in myself and others, but particularly with a friend of mine who had almost zero trust with his parents growing up and almost zero unconditional love, which is very hard to manufacture in life if you don't get it in your developing years. And he was absolutely addicted to that emotion of like finding out that he couldn't trust someone or etc. And so it kept perpetuating in his life until finally he actually kind of took the Joe Dispenza route in terms of mindset and realized, oh my gosh, all the therapy I've doing for years is just sort of reinforcing my like, aha, see, my parents were jerks or they weren't there. And that's why I am the way I am. Joe Dispenza's whole thing would be, and I agree with this, and I know you do too, we need to become addicted to our future. We keep reliving the past. And the truth is that 50% of our memories aren't even really true or based in reality,
Right.
which would go to Byron's Katie thing about what do we actually think is true. So you might even be reliving a past that's not even true. But more
Right.
importantly, you're stuck in the emotion and you become to expect it. And then, someone might say to Joe, well, like I can't think of gratitude or I can't be positive. He's like, right, because you've been training yourself to be addicted to this one way, to the hate, to the anger, the resentment, whatever it is, that you're not even taking an attempt, right? And so we have to make that first attempt. It's hard when you're addicted to anything, right? To trade fruit and whipped cream for the ho-hos or whatever the first move is, right? And this is what you and I preach and coach about, which is mindset, being self-aware, looking into this stuff. So it's really interesting. I think we get into these loops, we don't stop. I know I've been there with things that were upsetting in life that I kept sort of reliving. I was reliving in the pain of the past and not into the future, not into, we're never going to create our own reality or get beyond anything unless we start to put ourselves scripting our future self.
Yeah, and I'll give a personal example of this. And this is why I think we need help. We need a mechanic. We need somebody to help us come in and re-examine these stories because we believe they are reality. We don't even realize what unconscious programs we have going on underneath the surface. They just seem true to us. And so that's why I do the work of Byron Katie every single month with Catherine Dixon, because every single time I discover that I've had this core belief since childhood that I'm like, oh my gosh, the whole lens I've been seeing life through actually wasn't even true. And so I'll share an example. This is pretty, I'm just like, okay, I'm putting myself out there. But one of the things that I noticed was that I was like, I keep dating guys that have like mental health issues. Okay. I'm like, why do I keep dating these guys? And then down the road, I find out that they have mental health issues. What is going on here? So I do a session with Catherine Dixon and we end up doing it about my mom because my mom has mental health issues. I bet you guys can start to see the dots starting to connect.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. When I was growing up, the teaching from religion was honor thy father and thy mother, right? And it was very romanticized in my religion to have this like beautiful, perfect relationship with your parents. And I wanted that so bad. But my mom is basically, in my opinion, most likely undiagnosed schizophrenia. Okay. So here I am, a teenager trying to deal with delusions, anger outbursts, paranoia, accusations, and I have no help, a single mom. I'm the youngest and, towards a teenager because I'm the youngest, eventually it was just me and her, right? Because I was the last one left at home. And I wanted this awesome relationship with my mom. And so the story that I worked on with Catherine was I want to have, or I should have an amazing relationship with my mom. Okay. And as we dug in, the turnaround that we finally got to was, I want to have a real relationship with my mom and being real about that. And so the pattern that I discovered that I had picked up was, I am going to look past all of your crazy and love you anyway. So that's what I was trying to do as a teenager, was that's okay that you're accusing me of all this crazy stuff that makes no sense, and, grounding me and having all the, all my freedoms are getting stripped away, and I'm getting berated and yelled at for things that aren't even real. But that's okay, because I just want to have this really, it's okay. It's okay. I can look past all that and just see your goodness and love you anyway. And so, guess what I started doing in all of my romantic relationships? That's okay. I will just let you go ahead and treat me like that, or have all this crazy shit going on, and I'll just love you anyway, because I'm such an awesome person that could just love you anyway. And I personally can make this a good relationship by the way I show up in it, and just, the whole thing. And so, wow, getting to the root of that story, it was like, one of my like practically all my friends and anyone I care about works with Catherine, but one of my friends was doing a session with her, and they said that Catherine said the phrase to her, "Let's axe this bitch." And that's what it's like, like, I have had, that one was a huge one for me, because it felt like a tree of that had all these branches and all these areas of my life of basically not having boundaries and just loving people anyway, despite all their effing bullshit. We're all rooted in that. And so when we axed that bitch and we got to that core story of like, I'm going to be real about this relationship. That sucked. That sucked. That was a not good experience. And how do I want to show up in the future when I'm in that kind of situation, instead of that's okay and not having boundaries, right? So we axed that bitch. And so many, like in my business relationships, the way I coach, romantic relationship, friendships, it's like I stopped being okay with bullshit, And so that's what I mean by like getting to the core of these stories. I couldn't see that. I had no idea I was doing that, or where it was rooted, or why I was showing up like that. So
Well,
sometimes you need an extra set of eyes to help ask you a ton of questions.
Well, and it is classic psychology, right? We repeat the patterns that are familiar to us, whether they're healthy or not. And so oftentimes you will find in your adult life, you're like, shit, I'm dating my mom. I'm dating
Right.
my dad.
Yeah.
Now, that's not necessarily because we are addicted to that emotional situation. It's part of it. I think it's a tangential side-by-side combo here on that. And that's why I'm really glad you brought it up, because so for example, if we have negative emotions associated with a person or event and we're replaying that, we're really using those things to fuel that addiction to that
Yeah.
emotion. We don't even realize we're in it. But sometimes, again, when we have a familiar pattern in childhood, we will attract people into our lives that reflect that.
Yeah.
The
They fill
same
it.
to fill it,
Mhm.
and we don't even realize it, and then we're like, why does this keep happening? And I talked about this in my second book, but it's the same thing with my father. At the core, he was really unreliable. But he was cool and funny and kind of got away with murder on that because he was fun to hang out with, and he wasn't mean and he wasn't nasty, and so but he was a drunken loser. And I said to myself then, I'm like, nope, can't ever trust men, because you know what? You could marry them, they could be educated, wealthy, have a good family, and then they'd all lose your shit and you're left in the dust. And
Right.
then you're gonna have to be like, and so what did I keep attracting? People who would continually prove me right. And
Right.
so I had to go back and really change that story, kind of remove it and go cancel. I'd like to
Mhm.
cancel that statement I made when I was a teenager, because it really fucked with many of until my cousin, who's real no shit, was like, why does this keep happening to you? It doesn't happen to any of my other girlfriends. It doesn't happen to me.
Right.
And I was
Right.
like, oh shit. Who's the common denominator? Just like
Exactly.
you had to take a look at and go, why am I always? It's like, where's the common denominator? So we do attract it subconsciously, right? Which is why
Right.
it's so important that we do the work you and I do and coach people on, which is getting in there, being aware, imprinting the subconscious, kind
Yeah.
of digging up a little bit and assessing these limiting
Yeah.
beliefs. Because I would have continued to go on that. And I think, again, it became an addiction because it was like one guy after another. See, up, see, told you so, up, there goes. And then again, it's almost like I couldn't even get to a platform until I really did the work where I could bring in someone that was the opposite of that.
Yeah.
that was because I don't want that. I don't want
Right.
that to be true, but it
Right.
was true for me, not
Right.
for people.
Right. Yep.
I've
And
had friends that
confirmation
have
bias.
never had that issue, and I'm sure you've had friends that have never had that
R
issue.
Right, yeah, exactly. Because 'cause you're exactly right, confirmation bias, I think most of the listeners are probably you guys are probably aware of that. We just are constantly trying to prove our current paradigm correct because that
The
keeps
core
us
beliefs,
safe.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and, going deeper into my, pattern there, the emotion that I discovered that I was addicted to in that scenario was shame because my emotional reaction, which I want to get into reactions and responses here in a minute, but my emotional reaction was that if I judge you and don't love you anyway when you have mental health issues, I'm a bad person, right? Because that is what I would do to myself as a kid, as a teenager, with all my religious programming and all this stuff coming in, my reaction was shame. I should, man, you know what?
Oh,
I
like
should be
that you were a
more.
bad person for not loving your mother
Y
despite the
r
things?
Right, like, if I get mad at
That's
her or I
very
lose.
specific because, I didn't grow up with any of that, so that's
Right,
kind of a blowing my mind right now, but
yeah.
I want you to totally, yeah, elaborate on that further 'cause it's
Yeah, because like, most of these, emotions that we, get addicted to are rooted in safety, rooted in, like, peace, trying to keep peace and safe and coping, and so for me, that was just where my mind went was, "Okay, in order for me to be able to have happiness and be able to, like, survive in this situation that I'm in, I it's all on me. It's all on me, so don't," I remember being like,
don't ruffle feathers.
don't get mad. Don't get mad. Like, be forgiving, be kind. Even if she's being totally crazy, like, don't even say anything. Just love her anyway. And then if I would eventually lose my shit because I'm a teenager and it's just crazy stuff coming at me, and now you can't go to your friends for a month and I'm like, oh my God, and I would lose it afterwards, after I would yell and lose my crap, I would be like, gosh, damn it, I did it again. Into the shaming would come in, right? And so, man,
Did you ever
find
talk to anyone in your religion about this and say, "Hey, I'm having issues with my mom," and they just said, "Keep loving her," or was it just what was you were self-reinforcing from what you were learning from religion, or did you actually talk to anyone who then continued to help lead you there too?
I didn't, and that was another pattern, right? That was another emotion. I don't know if it's an emotion, but a state that I picked up as a kid was I very isolated, very alone, very very much like I don't want people to know what I'm going through. I'm just gonna like deal with this and
Right.
it's good and I'll just compartmentalize it. But I will say in my religion, like that was the source of like what was coming at me constantly was like serve, help your mom, do things for like be this like awesome kid and
Well,
I was
she's
just this
your
little
mother, damn it,
I
she
was just this goody two shoes that like wanted so badly to be all the things that they were telling me to be. And so if I couldn't meet up to that expectation, well, the resulting emotion was shame and guilt. It's like, you're not meeting up to the expectation, like do better. And so, man, it's so now what I want to share with that is the to me, growth happens in the moment. It happens. So when I am in a situation where somebody, I feel like, they wanted something from me or they're coming at me with some kind of energy that I'm like, dude, no, I don't want to do that for you or no. And I have to catch myself in the moment of, am I feeling bad because I didn't do what they want me to do or because I don't want to be their friend and they want to be mine or whatever it is? No, no, I choose this it now. Like, you know what's right for you, being my own best friend and resisting that emotion and replacing it with empowerment, right? So that the breaking at first, I would say you need help to see your blind spots. It is very unlikely to me, like, sure, you can read a bunch of books, listen to podcasts like this, you can do all that, and you can, emotionally like masturbate or whatever on like, oh, that's smart and that's blah, blah, blah. But until you get in with a freaking mechanic to see what your shit actually is, it's just going to keep on going unconscious. That's why I've been working with Catherine for over 3 years now, because there's always more, Catherine, it's funny when people start doing the
great,
work,
by the way,
like,
everyone. ClarityCoachingInstitute.com.
yeah, clarity
Yeah,
coaching
Catherine's
institute.
great.
She's great. And it's, I would say like for me personally, and I've heard this from many of my clients and people who go to her, it's like you go to like 3 or 4 sessions, and you're like, dude, I'm happy now. I'm good. I don't think I need the work anymore. And Catherine's like, I have like 15 things I could work on right now. And she's been doing it for over 20 years, and I think the more self-aware you become, the more you realize that we have a lot of programs, we have a lot of unconscious programs going on, and it's a constant treasure box to dig into. And in my opinion, unless you got it, all the work is, guys, all it is questions. It's just a bunch of questions. It's a bunch of really good questions, and it's pulling it out of you. And it's called it's very appropriately named, because I'd say, it's a 2-hour session.
It's harsh work, dude.
An hour in, like, I'm tired. I'm like, dude, it's like, how do you feel when you believe that thought? It's like, I don't know. There's a lot of silent pauses, and like, unless you have somebody helping you dig in like that, you're probably not going to find it, because it's hard.
And
It's
I think
work.
it's actually, as much as you can try to do it yourself, there's no way, Catherine, as a practitioner with the work, is especially the work. I think you can ask yourself and do some of the questions yourself. But if you really want to get in there, you need someone to lead you through it, because you will try to semantically word yourself away from shit and she'll catch you. And
Yes.
it's really, really good. And she'll be like, no, that's not what I'm asking, Well, and the truth is so if you're out there, how do I identify this? Because what is the fucking shit in your life that sucks, that keeps sucking, that's the same shit? Tara noticed, why do I keep attracting? I noticed, why am I continually attracting people that are like this? Now, they weren't all drunk losers like my dad, but there was the element of unreliability and unavailability, just like there might have been this other underlying element for you. So we can see it and in my book, I've mentioned this example before, but the person who had issues with always sort of being made to be wrong by their parents, even though they weren't, sort of falsely accused, kind of set forth that train of them always fearing people in positions of authority and always being made to be wrong. So something always went freaking wrong where they would end up being wrong. And I'm like, I was the only one that noticed it, just like my cousin noticed about me. Like, hey, Elle, this doesn't happen to anyone I know. And I asked Brandon, hey, man, this doesn't happen to anyone I know.
Yeah.
What is the story with you always being wrong? Were you made to be wrong as a kid? Yes. That's where it came from. And until that was identified, it was 20 years. And it was like a quick combo and a quick wrap. It didn't take much at all to get Brandon to move forward with confidence, speak up, finally attract new bosses, new people that nothing went wrong. So I would say, and we got to go through those areas of your life, right? Like, okay, maybe everything's great with career, but not personal relationships, right?
What is the pattern?
Personal relationships, with all the shame I had about the thing, plus my dad and all the stuff. It's just like, oh man, I thought my dad's stuff was the only thing I had to work on. It turns out it was also my personal shame, right? And how I showed up in a relationship. And so what things continually happen that are a theme that you don't like, whether do you keep attracting the same crazy chick, do you keep attracting these fucking drug addict men, or whatever the thing is, that's where you got to do the digging. There is some familiarity there.
Yes.
That you are, unbeknownst to you, addicted to. And it's not even, I don't even know, addiction might be a tough word for people to wrap their head around, but we could look at it just, it's familiar. And so it's back to what you said, safe and comfortable, even though that seems fucked up, because why would that be safe and comfortable? Just because it's familiar.
Yeah. And I love,
even though we're doing it.
Yeah. I love Dr. Dispenza's teachings about how it's connected into our body. Our body becomes familiar with that same chemical release. And it does. If you are running on adrenaline all the time, how many people have you coached, Elle? Like I coach a lot of people who are running on adrenaline. Okay. And you try to have them sit still, cut back some of their over exercising, cut back some of their doing. You're going to see addiction slamming you in the face. So if that's you listening right now, you need help getting out of it. There is a core belief story somewhere in your past where you're either having to prove your worth. You have some sort of story about hard work makes you a valuable human. Serving other people is where you find all your value. There's, or maybe there's some fear. If I slow down, then X, people whatever it is.
Abandoning you.
Right. Like exactly. So it's usually worth issues, but it's, I love also that he's talking about the body aspect of it. So one thing that Catherine does as part of her facilitation of the work is she asks when we get into the fear story or the limiting story or whatever, where do you feel it in your body when you believe that to be true? right? And it's like, okay, sometimes I feel like freaking adrenaline rushing through my veins. Sometimes my heart hurts. Sometimes I feel sick to my stomach, So it sometimes my face is burning, like I'm embarrassed, So it's cool to identify where that's happening in your body, because that's made me over the years, it's made me more aware of my body responses in certain situations. It's like, oh, okay, you're not breathing right now, or your stomach is feeling like, that happens when you feel this emotion. And so it's helped me become more aware of that. Actually, Zach Bush just did a webinar on this, and the info that he sent out on it was him and several doctors. They were talking about how we have found, it was about the brain and this mind body connection. And he was saying that we know now that memories are not only stored in the mind, because they gave as an example someone who got a kidney transplant and picked up the memories of the person they got the kidney from.
This has
Holy
happened many times
shit.
with organ transplant recipients.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, so there is definitely a body connection to us storing memories, right? And so it's like so more subconscious than we have ever thought. And so I wanted to share, I like what Dr. Dispenza shared about, he's like, how do you break this addiction? Okay. How do we get to it? He said it's a twofold process. So first, the first step is undertaking techniques for processing the negative emotions held in the body and mind. Okay, so first you got to process the negative. So that's like what we're talking about, the work of Byron Katie, counseling, coaching, something, not just you reading a book. That does not get you there. I don't care what it is for you. Plant medicines, hypnotherapy, like
You
something.
just speak it out loud.
It's individualized to you, not just general public stuff. You getting into processing the negative emotions of all these stories that you're believing. Got to get it out. I always say, speak it to release it. You got to speak it, get it out, let it out of your psyche. Sometimes you got to shake that stuff out. You got to move, like get it out. And then the second part of it, he says, is techniques for anchoring in more positive self states. So this is also work. And
Elevated emotions.
this also takes, in my opinion, someone outside of you to help, because your current paradigm of reality is just true to you. And until we bring in some new enlightening thoughts, like, and this is why I do personal development every morning and I read a statement out loud to reprogram my subconscious mind. This is what I do with Tony Child. This helps me bring in new, higher vibrational thoughts. When I went on my personal development, like freaking walkabout vision quest, like, I sat there and guys, seriously, for almost 6 months, did not hang out with anyone. I knew that I needed a complete and total life transformation. I had hit rock bottom. I was like, girl, you got work to do. I'm going to change my whole goddamn life right now. And I was on either headphones or playing in my house nonstop for almost 6 months, hiking, listening, just taking in new, higher vibrational ways of thinking from every mindset expert, success expert, spiritual teacher, anyone I could find. I was just absorb until I start to think like them. So
I'm a
that's
huge,
part
by
of
the
it
way,
too.
absolutely 100% what I have done in several stints over the years, couple months, whatever. I'm just like, oh God, I need to
Mm-hmm.
constantly walking, listening, soaking it up, just fucking, avoiding headlines, just getting
Yep.
reality, and then getting into it. That is also part of really enjoying your own company. You will learn to do
Mhm.
that once you do the self work. I believe in that just as much as I believe in when I'm working on something and having like a real substantial focus on it. Because again, the things that are gonna come up when you're regularly doing it versus piecemealing it. And also too, you probably, and I'm assuming at that time, either were shunned by people when you left the religion or needed to clear out toxic people you had adopted along the way and just
Yep.
kind of be with yourself, which is the most important part of the thing. And I guess you would say, well, how do I know if I'm like addicted to an emotion or something? Well, because you can't control it, right? So I went to Catherine too to over like a past event, and I was still so upset, just as if it had happened, and it had been like 7 years. I was reliving this constantly. It was really fucking me up. I'm sure it reduced my serotonin and did a whole bunch of other shit to my body. And I was like, oh my God, I have got to finally, like, I knew I was addicted to the emotion of that situation because I could not control it. When you cannot control an emotion, particularly a repetitive one, we all have moments where, we don't act the way we want, or we react in a certain way. We might not if we had more time to think about it. But that's how you really know. And it's usually pervasive and it's repetitive. And so those are the ones then you're like, oh, I'm addicted. And that's when really the work is particularly substantial, but also the stuff we're talking about, even just listening to Joe Dispenza. You mentioned the mind body. And again, I really want to bring up Candace Pert, PERT.com. She is literally like old school before Joe Dispenza mind body. And she absolutely said that the mind is not just in the head, it shares information via signal molecules through the body with consciousness and can override the system that you've established. And it's basically like molecules of emotion. It's a mind body thing. This is not a separate situation. It's exactly what Joe's talking about, or Zach, but Candace is like one of the leading brain researchers. And she was prominently featured in Louise Hay's movie about the book called You Can Heal Your Life, because there were people that healed themselves of breast cancer and other things through changing their mind. Joe Dispenza also has lots of examples of spontaneous, or you'd think it'd be spontaneous, but very quick healing from drastic, devastating scenarios. And same with Lynn McTaggart, who I've interviewed, who's she wrote The Intention Experiment, and she also The Power of Eight, how the power of groups and healing is really works. And if you want to look, and find out more about the science behind that, check out those people. But yeah, it's anything that keeps coming up over and over again. And until you recognize it, you can't break it.
And I love what you said about noticing you're getting super emotional about something and you can't really find your way out. Like you're still triggered, you're still pissed, you're still hurt, you're still, you're stuck in an emotion. You need help. That is when you need an extra set of hands emotionally to come in and help you out. And this is the next part of what Dr. Joe was teaching when he was saying that's twofold process. You got to get into the process the negative emotions and then bring in more self-positive states. He says that the goal is affect regulation. And what he's saying is it doesn't mean you become emotionally flatlined. This is where some people like they judge the work. It's like, oh, you just want me to not feel my emotions. It's healthy. No, that is not at all what the work is doing. That is not it. It's, I have a mini version of the work that I do with my clients and hire. It's a form that they can fill out anytime. And I use it myself many times because when I find myself becoming very emotional and I'm like, that bit, somebody like, I can't believe she effing said that to me, whatever. Right. So I'm like, dude, what is going on with you? Cause usually you let stuff go pretty quickly and you're stuck on this one. So what is going on? I know that there's a story that I am unconscious of. There's a deeper story there that I'm not seeing. And what I do in that process, which is in honor of Byron Katie's work, is the first thing is we release it. You get all the shit out. If you could say anything you want to that person or this situation, get it all out. And I do this with my clients. I'm like, do not be PC right now. Do not be woke. Do not be evolved. I want you to be as like base as possible and you want to freaking rip their head off or whatever, you say it. You think they're a piece of
all
shit.
This shit.
Yeah, scum of the earth. Yeah, you got to get that part out. That is part of that's emotional processing. And then we take a look at possible other versions of this story that could be true. And this is when we are able to now start regulating our emotions, lean into empathy, start to see things from different angles. And man, when you train your psyche to be able to do this, to admit what you're feeling, get it all out, and to be able to look at situations from different angles instead of just assuming that your knee-jerk reaction story of it is true, now you have control of your life. And this is when you enter into a heart-centered space where you can be responsive and not reactive all the time. And I see this because I do this work and because I coach people and I see people, they come, you guys all have friends like this and we're probably all guilty of it sometimes. It's just, can you freaking believe this? Look what happened. Can you believe what they did? Blah, blah, blah. And you're in this emotional place. Okay. I'm telling you, you have not processed it yet. And if you can do a simple process like something like the work, get it all out, and then start to examine your own stories, you will enter a place of power.
You can't look at it from emotional, intellectual, pan the camera back while you're still not having expressed
Yep.
the shitty,
Get it out.
raw emotions, whether insane, ego-based or not. I don't even care. I agree with that. That is absolutely how I coach and how I am with my friends. We talked about that. Like,
Yeah.
let's
Get it out.
get it all out, and then we're gonna
Yes.
tiptoe our way through to get to the other side so that this emotion doesn't continue. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
the ones that where that doesn't work with coaches or friends is where you really go to Catherine Dixon on. She is absolutely the one where, like, if some other stuff you've tried didn't work, then maybe going to Catherine is absolutely the one for that. And the other thing too is, so the other thing is, well, how, if you're addicted to these negative emotions, or you're just an asshole and you're constantly, there's people like that are just constantly just always thinking in the negative. How do you get out of that? And Joe would say, as many people would, well, you have to replace it with an elevated emotion. And people were like, well, that's really difficult. If you're in anger and hate all the time, it's really hard to get there. It seems like it does. And you can start very small. But what he would say, what I would say, what almost all law of attraction coaches and authors would say is, it's not enough to think the thought. It has to be an emotionally based connection to the thought of gratitude. You can't just have the thought, I'm really grateful I have my hands. Okay. I mean, I said it.
Right.
But I feel it.
Totally.
And I didn't feel it there, but I guarantee that if everyone's listening right now and you have the use of your fucking legs, okay, then you could probably generate the feeling of, like, go online, look at people, right? If you looked online of people with, like, in wheelchairs or people getting their legs cut off, okay, oh yeah, that's extreme. But you would probably be able to generate tears in your fucking eyes for the fact that you have legs. That emotion, that gratitude, that's the feeling, because it's a feeling universe, not an intellectual one. This is why vision boards don't work without the emotion attached to the end result of what it would be like to drive that car or whatever it is. So that is exactly what Joe preaches too. It's not enough to have an elevated thought, but he would say that gratitude is where you start, because there is always something, on one of the interviews of a coach I was interviewing on the podcast, he was talking about how to get himself out of the abundance scarcity mindset. He, again, started really small by just noticing abundance in places, right? Like, even if he was in a restaurant and there was, like, extra toilet paper in the bathroom, be like, all right, wow. I mean, there's an abundance of toilet paper. Like, someone had to fund that. There was money that paid for that. There's not a lack of abundance. There's tons of alcohol bottles everywhere. Like, someone had to pay for this. Again, there's money all around us. We just don't even stop to recognize it. And it could be with something so small like that. Or it could be with, I have my eyesight. Maybe it is about your health and your negative emotions about your health, which is something I deal with, and I'm sure you do with clients all the time. When you're in a sick, disease state for a while, you are shitting on yourself constantly. It's every morning, I hate my body. I hate this. Why can't I get better? And it kind of spirals. You get addicted to the negative emotion, and it's kind of true for you in your experience. But in order to change the experience, you have to move to an elevated emotion, right? Your future, right? Becoming addicted to your future.
So good. And I would say it's not just people who are sick. I have never, ever worked with anyone who did not have negative emotions towards their body, ever. Every single person, even if they're pretty good, that stuff creeps in. And so it's, like, in my opinion, an epidemic. And you want to take a look at why everybody's so obese and sick and injured and inflamed. Well, when you're in the energy of being hard on your body and mean to your body and come on, freaking body, I can't stand it. Sorry, this triggers the crap out of me. Maybe I need to go do a worksheet on it. But when I hear people say, like, my stupid knee, oh, my stupid hip, and I'm like, your hip is trying as hard as it can. It needs you to, like, love it and, like, give it what it needs and be proactive and maybe go in somewhere and take some vitamin C. And, like, your hip is trying really hard. Like, you're the asshole. Like, you're being the asshole. It's not the hip. Like, you need to give it love, And so
where are you self-deprecating? Because that's exactly what you're talking about too.
Right. And I'm like,
others.
Yeah, I don't care if you're 500 pounds right now. You can see, just like you're talking about seeing the abundance of the toilet paper and the bottles and all this stuff, you can lean into gratitude for your body. You're like, dude, I'm 500 pounds and
And
my
my
body
body
is
is still
still
alive.
taking it. Like, and I'm like, dude, I'm breathing every day. It's like, it's still healing itself. It's doing all these things. Thank you, body. Thank you for everything you're doing. And when you can lean into that energy of gratitude and love, now you're in a high vibe energy. And guess what you do when you're in high vibe energy? You make high vibe choices. And I think this is a big reason why people's health is declining so much, is because they're pushing themselves down into this low vibrational energy. And when you're in a low vibe energy, you make low vibe choices. So this leads me into meditation. I definitely want to hit on meditation, because if you want to be able to have the space, did you want to interject something real quick?
Well, I just wanted to share on the body thing.
Yeah.
'Cause it
Yeah.
reminded me of this whole thing about like 50% of our beliefs are not even true, right? And the example
Yeah.
would be like an anorexic, right? They're
Right.
skinny and they still are being like, I am fat,
Right.
right? But the objective truth is that they are not in any measurement or way of the eyes, but they think that they
Right.
are.
Great
And that's an
example.
extreme example, but
Right.
that is really the truth. Again, a lot of these things not being true, or you be like, oh, my stupid knee. You know what? No, your knee's not stupid. You're right. Your knee's trying to save you. All the parts of your body are trying to save your knee right now. Like everything's
Yeah.
actually working in concert for you. There may be a problem. Maybe you need surgery, but don't be fucking talking shit to the body, because that's just trying to save you.
Exactly. And you know what? A lot of y'all out there that think you need to lose weight, don't. How about
Yeah.
that one? There's a lot of
Yeah.
people that are like, I have clients and I'm like, dude, you're like 130 pounds and fit. Why do we need to lose body fat again? What? You're 20%. What's wrong with being 20% body fat? Right. So there's a lot of people out there that are like constantly,
That's a
chronically like,
good coach right there, is what you just said to that person, because you're like, I'm not willing to make money on something I don't think that
"Eh,
maybe is needed here.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
that,
about
well, I'm
the
like,
impression, that the self-love about the person. Yeah.
yeah, well, I'm like, this is going to be a mindset journey and a healing journey and a self-love journey,
Yes.
because like that's, and that then we dive into the
That's the
root of
coaching.
childhood and all that stuff, right? But yeah, like that was where I started transitioning into mindset coaching, by the way, because I would have these people and I'm like, dude, I don't feel good about this. I'm not, like I'm not supporting. You're in like a terrible way. You're super fit and healthy. Like the only thing going on with you is some bad blood work because you're so hard on your body all the time, like, but you could just, so anyway, a lot of this abundance also needs to be put towards the body, right? So I want to hit on meditation real quick, because how do we get into this space where we can change the way that we think? We have to train our brains to be able to have space between stimulus and response. And the best way to do that is meditation, because guess what? Everybody else is just as freaking busy as you are. You're not special. You're not the busiest person in the world. So is everybody else. And actually, if you are the busiest person in the world, you really freaking need to meditate. You need to meditate like 5 times longer than the not so busy person,
You need to
And
work
so
smarter, not harder.
yeah. So and it will give you the gift of what you're wanting, which is peace and happiness, is what everyone wants. So when you can take 10 minutes, guys, 10 minutes. If you don't have this practice in your life, what are you doing? How many,
It's a 10
how,
minute iPhone timer. Do you know how quick that goes by?
how many, well, actually, for me, it's the longest 10 minutes of my life. It
Right.
does.
But I mean, in general, that's not a lot of time in the grand scheme of one's day to devote to that. Everyone blows 10 minutes on bullshit.
Exactly.
Fucking
And it's
day.
like, how many highly successful world changers are you going to have to hear speak about meditation and how it changed their life and is the root of how they were able to create everything that they created before you're going to actually do it? So I'm going to give you a hard time right now. If you're not doing it, what are you doing? Make that freaking happen for you in your life. Because I'm telling you, it is beyond your wildest dreams, what it can bring into your life. So
You know
I'm
what? I
just,
want to bring that up. So people have really, there's lots of ways to meditate, and people are very confused. And there's some that I do not like. I will not sit there and chant a word. And that is not my way of meditating.
I don't do that. I don't have anything against it, but I don't.
Right. I don't have anything
do
against
that
it
as
either.
my
So there are
practice.
different modes of meditation. I want to try to pull this up because Byron Katie has one of the best.
Mm.
He literally has one of the best CDs. Anyway,
Joe has some good ones too.
who?
Real
Joe
good.
Dispenza has some
Yes.
good ones.
Yeah.
Who?
Joe Dispenza has
Yeah,
some
he's
really
got
good
some
ones.
good ones. Although His voice can get a little bit weird,
Annoying.
some of them, and some people find that very annoying. You have to kind of like know Joe and be okay with it.
But
I,
also removing judgment is part of the gift of meditation. So,
that's true. And honestly, I went along with it. And I was, at first I was turned off. I got back into it. I gave it a shot. It really wonderful. I love his You Are the Placebo meditations. There's 2 of them on a CD.
Yeah.
Byron Katie has a guided meditation thing that's great. That's not fully guided, but it's you'll start to drift off, and at the right time it seems like she'll bring you right back to the present, and then you drift up, and it's really amazing. But also too, there are guided meditations. You find the person whose voice you resonate
Yeah.
with, makes sense to you, on almost every topic. Guided in fact, actually, I'm glad we're having this conversation, because this weekend I finished recording a bunch of MP3s for guided meditations, and one is on abundance, one is on healing. Then I have like an affirmation on confidence and some other stuff, because I find these things valuable for myself and listen to others. So I love Justin Perry of You Are Creators. His channel has a million things on repeat, whether it's nighttime wealth affirmations, or whether it's a guided meditation on something, where someone is basically taking you through a visual experience, that you, and I find healing meditations very, very, I don't know, I love those. But they're all there for free. Test them out, see who you like. And this is just something you can turn on, and at night or in the morning, whatever you want to do. I think both are great times for, of course, the state of mind that you're in, and both about to go to bed and about to wake up. But again, some people find them to be better at night, really imprint the subconscious, and then like go to sleep. And also some of them are kind of sleepy making, especially if you're laying on your back and you're going to do like a guided meditation, listen to it. You might end up falling asleep, and there's nothing wrong with that. But really, you don't have 10 minutes to put something in your ears or sit in the closet. You have it.
You have it.
You have the time.
I will add, I love the Insight Timer app. And one idea, if you're wanting to get this all, and you're like, I keep meditating for like one day and then I never do again. And then one day and I never do again. A friend of mine in a mastermind group with me, he really wanted to get this instilled. And so Insight Timer, every time you use it, it'll say how many days in a row consecutively you've meditated. And so he would screenshot that and put it in his Instagram story, so that he was, hey guys, I'm going to do this for 30 days, and he was like, shit, man, that really pushed me, because I was like traveling for work, and I'm like, I don't want to, like, I held myself accountable in public, so that's just an idea. I don't care if you only have like 12 followers on your Instagram, it's 12 people, put it on there, I think for me, so when you're first starting, I did Deepak Chopra has a 21-day guided abundance meditation. You have to purchase that one, but I did that one and it was super powerful for me. And I did do guided at first, but this is just my personal opinion, but I am such an advocate of silent meditation when you can finally get there, because
that's the Byron Katie one. It's not, that's exactly what it is. It's like allows you to do your own thing, but it seems like the perfect time you drift should just bring it back for a second. And she's saying the same thing over, and it's just a quick thing, but it brings you back. You go away, brings you back. And then you're there. So it's not guided, but it's just like helpful to get you started on doing it on your own.
Nice. I love that.
Then I think you should I do believe getting that point. And look, guided meditations are kind of fun and nice to be led in a certain direction. Yeah. But I do believe if you can just sit in silence and be there, that's really, truly,
Yeah, I'm basically trying to see how long I can go between thoughts. It's maybe seconds, I don't think I've ever made it longer than maybe 10 seconds, but it's just, it's also what it trains into you. I find when people first meditate, they're like beating themselves up, which is reflective of your current mind state, by the way. If you find yourself getting mad at yourself because you started thinking when you were meditating, you're doing that to yourself in lots of other areas. But, so it's not about being like, damn it, I messed up. I've been thinking about freaking going to the gym for the last 4 minutes. It's not that. It's, oh, I just realized I was thinking, and let it go, and then come back into silence, I just realized and it's this kindness, awareness, acceptance, no judgment. My kids will come in sometimes and it's like, I'm not like, get the freak out of here, I'm meditating. It's just, Mike isn't here. They're like,
I'm going to need a meditation to deal with mom.
Yeah, you might want to double your meditation time. It's just awareness. Okay.
Well, and that's what I love about the Byron Katie one, because what she'll do is she'll just be like, all right. She'll say something like, Recognize what you're thinking about. Thank that thought for sharing its life with
Yeah.
you, and
And release it.
send it
Yeah,
away.
exactly.
And then you're back, and then you go to another, and again, but that's exactly what you're talking about. It's like recognizing, thank you for sharing that.
Right.
Not oh my God, I fucking started thinking I'm not doing this right, right?
Yeah, right.
It's got to
It's
be open to the time.
and that training, that kind of mind training is what will allow you to be able to get out of these emotional addictions that we have. So, do you get really triggered when somebody does something they're not supposed to in traffic? Are you like that dude cut me off? Like, is that because this kind of mind training will allow you to release emotions, release thoughts as they come in. It's like maybe that
And leaving
guy.
rooms for sort of maybe in times when it's more important or more valuable in that moment to really feel something
Right.
versus, again, being the overreactive mind, I guess, right?
Right. It helps you create space between stimulus and response. And I don't know any more effective way to do it. And if you want to get out of these patterns that you're stuck in, you got to train your brain to be able to pause for a second and find that little bit of space. That little bit of space, because my one of my favorite quotes is from Viktor Frankl from Man's Search for Meaning. And he says that in that space is where all of our freedom and our power lies. And I 100% agree with that. He's a philosopher that was in a concentration camp. I mean, like, thank God for him. I'm sorry that he went through that, but I am so grateful that he survived it and was able to write that book,
Mhm.
that we can all learn from this like severe stripping away of human freedom so he could observe and share with us. And that quote, it is just like, it's so in my soul. We always have the power to choose how we're going to respond to something. And when you're new and you haven't ever meditated or done any personal development work or any sort of coaching or anything, you are stuck in the reactive mind. I was there. I was definitely there. I didn't
You're also
even
stuck in
know.
the past and you are not at all
Yeah,
planning and plotting and vibing
right.
in your future, which is where we really should be. You are just continually reliving the past. And it's the same old. And that's why,
Yeah.
if you're that person out there, that's why you're fucking bored. That's why your life feels like, what meaning is this? It's
Yep.
because you were just in this soup. And by the way, we've been there. I've been there.
Yeah. Most of my life I was there.
I'm going to
It's
say that you
only
can change it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's only been in the last decade that I found another way. And I'm telling you guys, this shit is good. This shit is, and all it takes is for you to have just enough trust. Like, how many people are you going to have to hear talk about this before you just trust? That's why I started meditating. I was like, okay, I'm listening to all these successful people, and that dude's like a billionaire, and that dude is like this spiritual leader, and that, they have all these wonderful things in their life, and they're all saying meditation is what they say they attribute to that success. Okay, I will trust, even though I'm sitting here for 10 minutes and I don't really feel much happening and I just thought the whole time and like whatever, I'm gonna keep doing it because I trust, and I'm telling you guys, like, it will take you out of Groundhog Day. It will take you out of the lower, it's like you don't even know it, but you're living a much lower vibrational version of your life journey than you could be. And I feel like this meditation and doing this deeper work and breaking free of these patterns, I look at it as though I'm caught in a web right now in the current level of consciousness that I live in. And this helps me break it open so those little like strings and webbing can like reach up to the next level and slowly go up. So it's like, if you want
And
to
it's
live your best
part of like
life.
rewiring the
Yeah.
brain, like Joda would say with the negative emotions. If you're constantly firing, you're rewiring, you're constantly like making those connections tighter. There's only several ways, there's only a few ways out of that. This is one of
Yep.
them. By the way, have you noticed? So my doctor, Dr. Forsman, you've interviewed him, I've interviewed him many times, it's on the book. He a lot of posts on meditation, half his website. Patients do not like it when he brings it up because nobody wants to hear that they have to meditate, right? This is one of those things that's why you're trying to push people. And I agree with that. It is the important push. It is, you have to try it. You have to jump into it. No one needs to know you're doing it. You don't have to declare it to the world. Just do it. Just do some form of it and start, because it also is a part of health, right? Again, back to what we were talking about, the mind, body, Joe, Candace Pert, all of these researchers that we really understand that it's connected. So if you also want to improve your health and your brain health and your emotional health, this
Yeah.
is absolutely one way to go. No matter which way you do it, on your own, you go to, I know someone who went to like a meditation group thing and loved it because again, maybe that was him needing to be held accountable and going to a thing. But whatever you have to do. And also I think his website, middlepathmedicine.com, has lots of different cues for meditation and stuff like that. And this is coming from a doctor who, I think he went on a trip a couple of years ago to India just to like meditate for 10 days. And, he's very into it. And it's a part of his practice in himself and his life that he does not, he follows. He does not, it's like a regular part of his routine. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where the secret is, right? Is making it routine. Because if it's like on your to-do list, it's not going to happen, right? It's got to be
that's the same with like, what if you just ate a healthy thing every now and then? It's not, if you can't exercise once a year or even once a month and expect to have changes if you want those kind of changes, right?
Well, yeah. And if you try to add it to your list for the day, it's going to become a stressor. So it's like, I was just having a conversation with a client right before this on that. I'm like, I was like, what do you think is your barrier to not going to the gym more consistently? And he was like, I just don't have enough discipline. And I was like, nah, that's not it. I was like, hold on. So we talked about, I'm like, there needs to be a consistent window in your day that can be flexible if you're traveling or whatever. But when, like for me, it's I wake up, I meditate, I do my morning routine, I work out. The rest of my life can fluctuate around that, but that is a core, that is my time to create power in my life, and it's like, I look forward to it. It's like, it's me time, it's like spa time for some people. And it's like, when you can look forward to it and you have it built in consistently into your habits, then it just keeps happening. And so like a huge key to success is building in consistent habits that just keep you winning, like right before this, I was super hungry and I admittedly have muffins for my kids from 4th of July and damn, it's 1:00 here. Those muffins were looking real good. I haven't eaten and I trained really hard, but I was like, no, like my consistent habit is I just had protein bars, I had 2 of them. I just chowed them down really quick because those habits of like, I know I need protein because I don't eat protein right now. I'm going to eat like 3 of those muffins and 2,000 calories later, I'm still going to be hungry, So anyway, building in these patterns for success, like how do I react when I wake up? What do I do? Terry Cole, who you introduced me to, who was on Primal Blueprint and is amazing.
And you interviewed her too.
I did interview her and I just did her boundary boot camp. And she mentioned, and I forgot who she said gave credit to this for, but whoever it was a guy. He said, RPM is rise, P, meditate. So if anybody knows who that is, but I love that because if you don't get up, get out of your freaking bed, do not lay in your bed and try to meditate. It's not going to freaking happen. Get your ass out of your bed, go pee. I put on my gym clothes, brush my teeth, wash my face and sit my ass down. Hey Siri, set a timer for 10 minutes and we go on, So, anyway, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Obviously we're pretty passionate about this, but, guys, please make sure that you're building in those consistent life habits that keep you winning. Create space. I'm going to be bold here and say, if you are not meditating or doing any sort of emotional deep dive, personalized work on you, you don't even know who you are yet. You don't even know. You have no idea what you're capable of because all of that power is created in that. Otherwise, you're just like going through patterns of conditioning of who you thought you were supposed to become. And it is not until you create a moment in time where you're deep diving into why you think the way you do, how you think, what your patterns are, and creating space through meditation. You have no freaking idea who you are or what you're capable of. And I was
just gonna joke around that piggyback on that and say like, and when you do meet that person, let us know how that works out. Who'd you meet? Who'd you find out you were?
Yeah. We want to meet that person because that person's cool as shit.
Yeah, that's right. That's the person you're gonna want to hang out with. And also, so Joe Dispenza has many, many books. It started with Evolve Your Brain many years ago. The first 50, it's very heady, but the first 50 pages about how he basically cured his physical ailment that was a nightmare, basically using his brain. And then also talks a lot about rewiring your brain, but it's heavy sciencey. And then some of his other books are a little bit more palatable for people, like Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, You Are the Placebo, Supernatural, Unbecoming Supernatural.
Yeah.
And then of course, Byron Katie, I mentioned Candace Pert, .com.
And Catherine has Clarity Coaching Institute. She has an associate named Carol as well. And she trains people on the work and wow, she's amazing. I interviewed her on my podcast. You should get her on Primal Blueprint. She's so
I'm going to, if you can't get out of something and it just is, and it doesn't matter what it is, because I went to her about my incongruency with the way I was treating money.
Yeah.
So it was just, it could be like something constantly that keeps coming up that doesn't even have to do with a person or even really an emotion, but something that like is annoying in your life.
It's a
that
pattern. Yeah.
pattern, right?
Yep.
Or it could be an emotion you're addicted to that you just can't. Maybe you're still crying and it's 7 years later after you got divorced or after
Or
someone died. Whatever it is, you
Mhm.
need to see Catherine for those types of
Yeah.
chronic things.
Right. Or you can't forgive someone. You just can't get
Yes.
past it. She really helped me with that. So yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Awesome.
I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.